Welcome back to a new episode of the Screenwriters of Action podcast. Today I have Aki back.
Woo!
Aki, welcome.
Thank you, man. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Chris.
It's a great. I really loved the last time you were here when we chatted about the Marvels, and we really went a deep dive on it. And I'm very excited about today because we came up with another movie that is, well, unlike the Marvels, this movie is pretty, like, if there's anything such as an objectivity of greatness when it comes to movies, this would probably be it, even though there's no such thing.
Right.
But it is the number one movie on IMDb. It's, of course, Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank.
Some would say it's a near perfect movie. I'm one of them. And we're both, me and Aki, we're going to go deep into what Shawshank does right, why it works, so that hopefully you can become a better storyteller.
That's the goal.
But of course, that's really my stance. I love the movie. It's my top 5 favorite movies of all time. Yeah. So I'm very biased here. But Aki, man, how do you feel about the Shawshank Redemption?
Man, thank you. Well, first off, thank you for suggesting it. Like you and I spoke about it before, I shy away from these heavy movies. I don't know why. But like I told you, I haven't seen it in years and years and years. And I was very young back then. So I was a different person. But seeing it now, like I appreciate the craft, man. Like Stephen King, and I don't know how to pronounce the director's name. Like Frank, I think it's French. I'm gonna struggle. I'm gonna butcher it. It's Frank.
Let's see if I can find it. That's right. He's Frank Darabont.
That sounded easier. That was easier than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, that's it. You should be good. You should be good. Yeah, he's
cool.
Also the director of Green Mile. Another really good movie.
That's a good one. That's a good one I haven't seen in a while. Maybe another one of the podcast we could talk about.
Add that to the list.
Add that to the list. Yeah, man. Yeah. But I will admit, I was kind of intimidated. I was like, when you suggested it, so I was like, Chris loves this movie. I have to show up, I have to bring my A game, whatever. But yeah, dude, rewatching it again, it's crazy. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So hopefully we could glean some lessons for your viewers, because you learn more from the mistakes, but I don't know if they made a lot of mistakes here. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Actually, I would say at least my very biased here that, of course, I think it's a near perfect movie, and honestly, I think it just works on so many levels. And when I rewatched it again, this today, and there were so many things I noticed. Also, like I knew that already, but it kind of from everything from scene craftsmanship, the characters, all the thematic messages. There's so many things in this movie that just works.
Yeah.
And I think you can learn a lot from also what works. And I think this movie is a master, a prime example of a movie that just works. And even if you don't like it, even someone out there, maybe you're listening to this and you don't like it, which is totally cool, but you have to keep in mind that a lot of people do. It's pretty much recognized as one of the best movies in the world, or at least, so even if you don't like it, you should definitely try to learn from it, because a lot of people, it does resonate with a lot of people, and you need to figure out why that is so that you can replicate it, even though you don't want to make Shawshank Redemption, but you need to know what it's doing so that you can do it in your own stories. So I think there's a lot of lessons in this.
Absolutely, man.
To learn.
Absolutely.
And
go ahead.
Yeah. and also, for all of you listening, thank you so much for being here. And again, me and Aki, we're just two screenwriting buddies, and we're just going to talk about Shawshank Redemption, and we're going to talk about the movie. And again, we're trying to go into it as the conversation as screenwriters, right? Looking at the story and what it does right. But we're also going to nerd out a little bit about just maybe, this scene is so great, or this character or whatnot. We're just going to have fun doing this. And hopefully you will, and thank you so much, listener, that you are here joining us for this this chat here.
Yeah.
As you can tell, I'm very excited about it.
I know, this is like a kid in a candy shop, man. This is your movie.
100%, man. Yeah, man. So, man, and I can't believe you haven't seen this movie in your adult life, Aki. That's still baffles me.
I am
And
amazing. Yes, I am incredible.
you are really an amazing man, a standout human being.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
And and also again, also like for real, you are an incredible story consultant, and
Thank you. Thank
you are probably you're my favorite. And now we even started to work together on a couple of different things.
Yes. Yeah,
So
that's I know. I like that. You just giving him a little taste.
yeah,
Teasing
we
him with something.
exactly. Yeah, we work on something really that's gonna be big, and we're gonna. Hopefully, we can share this in a few months. We can share more in a couple of months because it's gonna be big, and it's not just about us teaming up on a podcast or something like that. It's actually gonna be really. It could be really huge, but who knows?
Yeah,
Who knows what's gonna happen? It's really exciting to do, and we're very early in the process. But I think it has great. It has potential.
it
I'm just
does,
gonna
man.
say that Seth MacFarlane, we're coming for you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say anything more than that,
I'm well
but.
said.
But back to Shawshank, man. That's why we're here because
Yes,
we're gonna talk about the movie.
absolutely.
So again, I really like the movie. You really like the movie. It sounds like no. And
Mhm.
so Aki, I wanna let you kick off like today. Like, what is now? You just watched it almost for the first time, or like after many years of have not having not watched it. So What are some of the things that stands out to you?
Good question, man. Um, yeah, it's cool when you haven't seen a movie in a long time. You get to rewatch it.
Mm.
That's kind of the best part to relive it again. Um, what stood out? I think the fact that despite the lack of, today's movies are filled with spectacle, right? CGI
Mm.
and explosions and superheroes. But despite the fact that they had zero of that, and every scene was just people talking, um, I was never disengaged. I was never disengaged. The whole movie, I was just locked in. Um, just going with Andy and going with Red, and seeing how they face, the horrors of Shawshank. Like I did some research looking at the DVD bonus material about it, which is really cool. Which is really cool. Like the fact that the reason uh, Morgan Freeman's character Red is called Red was because he was going to be an Irishman, but they cast.
Ah.
Yeah, Frank, the director, wanted to work with Morgan Freeman, so he's like, it's got to be Morgan Freeman. So little tidbits like that, but
That is such a great anecdote. I love that. I did not know that. That makes so much sense now why he says like maybe I'm Irish.
yeah,
Like when he says that
exactly.
line in the movie.
I
That
know.
makes so much it's such a fun line. That's an even better line now knowing that.
Right, the story, because it threw me off too. I was like, why? Like, I was looking at it, the scene, and Morgan Freeman takes a second, and it felt like they were joking amongst themselves. And I was like, what? There's something there. So I looked it up. Also, another cool tidbit, the scene when Andy um, meets Red on the yard for the first time, and Red is throwing a baseball, right, to Haywood. Um,
Mm.
they shot that scene for 9 hours. And Morgan
Holy
Freeman
fuck.
Morgan
Yeah.
Freeman was throwing. Well, it was his left hand, but he was throwing for 9 hours. Didn't complain, and the next day he showed up for shooting with his arm in a sling, like because he messed it up for 9 hours.
Wow. That's crazy.
Hmm. Hmm.
Wow.
That's what.
Okay, now we added actually. I love that those anecdotes.
Yeah.
I have one to share as well actually
Yes,
behind
please,
little
man. Let's
not so
let's
much
nerding out.
behind the scene, right? But it's about when I was in last time I was in Hollywood, I visited the Writers Guild of America, like a library. They have
Cool.
a library, public library. You can go in there and read. Like they have all the great screenplays available in there. You can just actually read on paper. And I read Shawshank Redemption when I was there,
What? That's
and I
crazy.
was I was shocked to find like in there. Of course, the screenplay. I think it probably was the shooting script, so it's very similar to the movie. But when I got to the end, there was a scene that missing. There was a scene that was not in the screenplay that was in the movie.
Oh,
That to me totally is like that's the moment I tear up, and the movie actually it was a genius move to actually include that scene, even though it was not in the screenplay.
okay. Okay.
And So when we have the whole like, I was baffled, right? Because we're sitting in the like towards the ending here. Morgan Freeman, he's just like he just got his bus ticket, got on the bus, and he's on the way to the border. And we have the little he has the little voiceover monologue like on going down towards like into the unknown, basically down to find Andy. And poof, that's the end. That's the end of the screenplay.
Damn.
So that touching moment when they are on the beach on the in the end, and they just there's no dialogue. They just two they find Morgan Freeman's character Red. He finds Andy.
Yeah.
They just look at each other, and then he just smiles, and they embrace it as
That's
friends
it.
as we pan out. And it's such a that scene always makes me teary. I just have such a I love that scene. It
Yes.
just sticks the landing,
Yes. Yeah.
and I can totally see why the I can see what the like why they ended the screenplay on the bus,
Hmm.
but it makes so much more. It gives so much more to the story that they just decided to end with that.
Yes. I would
Um,
have. Yeah, if they left me on that cliffhanger of did Red finally meet Andy? Like thematically, you kind of know my approach. Like when I was looking at this, I always like to find a theme or
yeah,
the what I think is the message in the film. And to me, it manifested as uh, hope keeps you free, right? And throughout the script, Andy, to me, Andy, the whole time he knew that hope keeps you free. The scene where they're all sitting at the table. This was after Andy played Mozart in the office for
that's
everyone.
such a beautiful scene.
Yeah, and Morgan Freeman narrating was great. Like the
Mm,
it's so good. So Andy plays it, and then he gets to spend. Norton puts him in a hole for 2 weeks, and Andy shows up at the table with Red and the fellas, and um, they're celebrating his return, and he's like, "Best, easiest 2 weeks I've spent." Um, and that's when Red pushes back, right? Um, Red tells him, or sorry, I'm rather Andy tells him, music is the one thing they can't take away from you. It's in here and it's in here, and that he was basically talking about hope, and then Red,
yeah,
we show Red's arc now, because to me, Andy had an arc and Red had an arc. Andy knew that hope keeps you free, and Red was afraid of hope. He was hopeless the whole way. And Red needed to meet Andy where Andy was. And to me, that's what that last scene did. Red finds Hope, finds Andy, and he meets him. And I was like, that's so good. Like there's so many symbolic ways that they express the theme. Um,
you're so right. That's such a beautiful statement. That's so true. I never thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right, 100% right. Now, I 100% agree that hope is, of course, the theme of this movie.
yeah,
But I never thought about like that's such a good way to like view that final scene. That's Andy finding hope. That's such a yeah,
yeah,
wonderful insight, wonderful insight. But see, that's actually there's a point. I know this is something that I think it's been debated over the years, and
hmm,
I think there's a pretty clear cut answer to it. But there is a lot of people who would argue that no, let me rephrase it. There's a lot of like discussion whether like is Andy the main character or is it Red who is the main character? There's a little bit of confusion it seems out there,
yeah,
like who is actually the main character of the two. As for like we have Red, who is like he is the voiceover, he's the narrator. He's also the character who has the big change.
yes,
Whereas Andy, he's kind of like the same the whole way through, right? So
steadfast.
that's kind of like so what would you like? You just watched it like rewatched it for like after many years. Like what? How do you what are your thoughts on
I'm
that?
gonna give you a. It feels like a cop out answer, man, but it depends on your perspective. Like it depends on which character you yourself in. Like
Hmm.
if I were like gun to my head, I would say Red is the protagonist, but
Ooh, interesting.
barely. And I only say that because Andy, in a very real way, plays the mentor to me. Plays the mentor in the film. So what Andy goes through is what Red needs to see so he can emulate. So the whole way through, like we were saying, Andy, Um, he knows that hope keeps you free, so he's constantly doing things to keep hope. Like he risks his life with Hadley on the roof, telling him, "Hey, I'll get you out of the. I'll keep you or help you keep the $35,000. Avoid taxes, right?" And gets the guys just to get to the guy's beer, just to give him a moment of like normalcy. What else? He's teaching the guys like Tommy, teaching them to get their high school degree, right? Um, he just keeps, man. Why am I spacing, bro? There's so many things he does. Even his first moment was to give Brooks um, a worm for his crow, Jake. He was like the first thing he does is he gives, just gives, and then he asks about that the prisoner that Hadley beat up and basically killed. He asks what was his name. Like he's always like reminding people of their humanity. It's like it's always there are things outside of these walls that are not made of stone. Um, so he's constantly gifting hope. Like I had an idea yesterday, and I want to hear your thoughts about it too.
Sure.
Religion is a big part in this movie, especially with Norton. You know, the warden,
Yeah.
because Wharton, it's such a tongue twister. Warden Norton, um, the first thing he says, or one of the first things he said, is like, "Put your faith in God. Your ass belongs to me." That's his basically summation of his speech, and he uses Hadley as kind of his strong arm to suppress any
Absolutely.
yeah any pushback from the prisoners. So I thought about it. If we were to put like a religious kind of spin on this, um, Hadley to me would be the devil, and Andy would almost be kind of like the prophet. He's coming into Shawshank and showing Red and the others, he's gifting them hope, and they just need to learn. They just need to learn to take it. Um, so I was thinking, yeah, from that angle, what do you think? Do you think it fits? I'm not doing a very good job of explaining this. It was sounded better in my head. But what do you think?
About it like being a lot of references to the biblical,
Yeah,
to the Bible,
like how?
religion. Well, I think there's a lot of things like yes, yes, absolutely. It could absolutely be. You could definitely look at it that way, right? The Bible also plays a pretty big, especially for like the warden's character. He
Mhm.
really like he's used in the Bible, right?
Yes.
And there's also a lot of biblical, like a lot of like Christian themes in the movie as well, right? And also like the whole like once Andy gets free in the end, right? He does the Jesus pose, like he's
Yeah.
reborn. Um, so totally like there's a lot of like religious or like elements from the Bible, if you will, like infused in it. So I don't think it's a far stretch, but
Yeah.
I think it's I do I don't think you like it's like again like it's a subjective thing, and I can totally see why you see that.
Yeah.
And I don't really think you can disagree with it because it could totally be
That's fair.
there.
That's a fair point.
So but I'm curious, like, so when it comes back to the,
The
well, you
protagonist
touched on a
question.
lot of things here, but back to so would you say like red, red, or like were you still leaning on red being the protagonist, or did you actually talk yourself into it was Andy?
I want to say both of them. That's my real answer.
Yeah, well, you know what? You can
Yeah.
actually, you could view this as a buddy movie. You
Yes.
could view that as there's that they're equal protagonists. I think there's a strong argument to make there.
Yeah.
Um, I would argue, and again, there's no right or wrong answer here, as these movies are subjective. Maybe Red is the clear-cut protagonist for you out there. Maybe there's a buddy movie, so both of them are.
Hmm.
To me, however, I would say that it's at least to me, from my point of view, I think Andy is absolutely clear-cut protagonist. And actually, when you just listed up all the things Andy did, that kind of like even like cemented into me. Oh yes, he is absolutely the main character,
Hmm.
at least to me, because he's the one who's doing all the work, right? Red is basically standing by and like he's always watching what Andy's doing. So we have an active character on Andy.
Yes.
That's
Very.
also the character we open with. We also have like and yes, it's true that Andy doesn't change throughout the movie. He has a flat arc, pretty much.
Yeah, he has a steadfast
He is
heart.
a exactly. He's a steadfast hero, and that's kind of like most movies has the traditional changing hero.
Hmm.
Um, and this movie, I think, utilizes Andy as the steadfast hero beautifully, because he comes in like, and maybe I should explain, just briefly explain what the steadfast hero is compared
Yes,
to
yeah,
the
thank
changing
you.
hero. For those who don't know, that the steadfast hero is like the hero, like when you have a traditional hero with a want and a need, basically, when the hero has to discover his need, and then usually they will discover the need towards the end, and then that basically the movie is over. The hero has transformed.
Right.
With a steadfast hero, the hero is already aware of the need from the beginning. There's no like they don't contrast. They are both there.
Yes.
So Andy comes in already being this hopeful character,
Hmm.
learning very quickly that this is what's going to keep me alive in here,
Hmm.
and I'm going to fight to protect it, or at least I'm going to try to relive this as hard as I can.
No.
And what he does, like with also like typical with a steadfast hero, like yes, it's true that he doesn't change, but everything else around him
The
changes.
world experiences the character arc.
The world
Yeah.
changes, the other characters changes.
Yes.
Like all the change that happens to Shawshank comes from Andy, right? He's causing this change, and it's a constant battle. Like the prison, like the Shawshank, is constantly trying to take him down,
Yes.
and they almost do it actually twice, several times they actually
Yeah.
try
Yeah.
to take it down.
The sisters, Tommy.
The sisters, right? The big like first half of the movie. That's really the big force of antagonism.
Yes.
And then we move into like after that, it's like there's a good time. You and then the darkness comes back in when
Hmm.
with the death of was
Brooks.
it Billy? Oh, Brooks as well, yeah.
Brooks and
But the
Tommy.
character, he's a student,
Tommy.
the Elvis Presley guy, young
Yeah,
man.
Tommy. Tommy's the
Tommy, yeah, that's Tommy, right?
kid. Yeah.
So that's kind of like that's also a thing. I think when you're looking at the structure of this whole thing,
Hmm.
um, there's this whole thing about like we open like the first half of the movie. Beautiful said like Andy has to learn, like in the first act, he really has to learn and navigate the prison, and also deal with the sisters and overcome them.
Hmm.
Then he actually does like he on the rooftop. There's the beautiful thing when he actually befriends Hadley, and from then on, I think that's pretty much the first act is kind of wrapping up. Then you can argue that's the first act ending up, and then we go into the middle of the second act where we kind of like see him now starting to make real change in the prison. Like
Yeah.
he makes the
The
library. He
library.
like starts to introduce like the music comes into the place. Tommy is like he starts to like his real next project is Tommy. Like it's really that's becomes his new like big thing to work on.
Yes.
And but then it changes when Tommy mentions that because everything is good right now. We're on a high right now. Everything is going Andy's way. He has overcome pretty much all the obstacles, right?
Yeah.
He is actually successfully at changing Shawshank from within. But oh boy, no. Now Tommy comes up, actually giving who might actually like offers real proof that Andy is innocent after all. But then of course the prison is not gonna let Andy goes to Warden, and the Warden says, no,
Yeah.
that's not how this works, man. And now the movie gets dark again. We're reminded that it goes right down. Like he was naive in the first like the first half of the second act, trying to like actually remake the prison.
Mhm.
But now the prison comes back and it strikes back hard. Right, Tommy dies. Andy is like sentenced to like solitary
Yeah.
for like
Two
a long
months.
time,
Two.
2 months. Yeah,
Yeah. Like that scene was
and
so great with the warden. Yeah.
exactly right. So many things.
Yeah.
Like Warden's character in himself is also like a great
He
character.
is. He is. Like I was thinking about. So to me, once I find the theme, um, I need to find, or you'll find that each character has their own perspective on it. So, for example, Andy is hopeful, right? Red is hopeless, and the warden, to me, knows that hope keeps you free. That's why he is constantly taking it from people, from the prisoners of Shawshank. He's constantly finding ways to take it. Um,
Absolutely.
and that was a question I had. I wanted to ask you too, because after after Boggs, I think, one of the sisters, the main
Yeah.
guy from the sisters, they really beat Andy. They put him in infirmary for like a month, I think. Um, Boggs gets put in a hole and then pulled out. And then when he goes back to, I think, Andy's cell, I'm not sure.
Oh, it's his own
It's
cell.
his own cell. Cool.
Yeah.
He goes back to his own cell, and Hadley just cripples him.
Yeah.
Why do you think Hadley did that? And I'm assuming the orders came down from the warden. But why do you think?
So I think at this point, like, right, Andy is basically he's becoming friend. He's befriended Hadley. At least, like, I think already, even though we haven't really seen it too much of it,
Hmm.
like we already like we know that he has helped Hadley actually get the $35,000, right,
Yes,
tax free.
tax free,
So
baby.
Hadley, so and I think also already now, like Andy has maybe already started help. Maybe he's now he probably hasn't started helping the others, right? But I think Hadley has already mentioned it to Warden that there is
Mm.
this prisoner who actually is really good at this.
So you're saying it's kind of like they're showing Andy that they're like protecting him, or like
They
it's a
are
show of faith.
absolutely exactly. That's now they're putting on like that's also a kind of thing. It goes back to Warden, right? He's letting all these terrible things happen.
Yes, and
Um, and yeah, come
oh, I
go.
was gonna say, sorry, I'm trying really hard not to interrupt you because the last podcast I felt like I was interrupting you, man. So I'm sorry.
Don't worry, man.
Um, yes, the warden. Damn it, I lost my thought. um, yeah,
No, but while you find oh, you find it, okay.
no, go ahead, go ahead. It'll come to me.
No, it's just a thing, right? With all of this, right? Warden is kind of like this. He is this. He is actually. I think for a long time I had a little. I wasn't quite sure. Is there a clear cut antagonist, or does it change throughout the movie?
Hmm.
But I do think Warden is kind of like he is, but he's the main. Or you could also make an argument that Shawshank Prison is the actual antagonist,
Right,
like the setting itself, just like a tornado or like a
right.
tsunami and those kind of disaster movies. But and I think there's a strong argument that Shawshank is the prison itself is the antagonist. But I think let Warden embodies it, right? He's letting all these terrible things happen,
Yes,
and now there's this guy who can maybe help me. Let's protect him.
yes,
We're protecting him, and now that's also why kind of like later on when he's threatening Andy when he's down in the solitary cell, like after Tommy is dead, like he's threatening him, "You're gonna come back to work for me, or otherwise I'm gonna
destroy everything
throw
you've
you.
built.
I'm gonna destroy you, everything, and
Yeah,
I'm gonna toss you back to all the other, like all the bottom of the pit of the prison,
yeah,
and you're gonna be fucked like f like
yeah.
never before, right?"
Yeah,
And
he's got this line, man, and
yeah,
it crystallized it for me. Like the warden has a god complex, and
yeah,
that
yeah,
hypocrisy is so good. Like Stephen King is
true,
so good at characters like that. Where I think when I watched The Mist, uh, I forget her name, the lady, the religious lady. She's like, oh, that faux piety that's constantly
yeah,
emitting out, but she's such a hypocrite. Um, and he seems to
yeah,
do that a lot. And Warden is the same way. He's like,
yeah.
have trust in God, um, and all that, walking around with the Bible and constantly reciting verses.
Yeah.
And he abuses prisoners. He kills prisoners. He takes money. He's greedy as hell. Um, and that hypocrisy really, really shows. And one of my favorite scenes, like in that scene with Andy, after they killed Tommy. Spoilers, by the way. After they killed Tommy, um, he says a line. Warden tells Andy a line that you've mentioned, and I think it goes something like, I'll pull you from your one bunk Hilton and thrust you down with the rest of the sodomites. Like it was very,
That's the line.
yeah, it was like very biblical talk, and he saw himself as God, and that's blasphemy. Like that's straight up
I love
blasphemy. And here he is using this kind of shield of piety,
that. Mm,
when he's the most hypocritical and the most savage and the most uncivilized of all the
yeah.
prisoners. Um,
I love that. I love that you get a he definitely got a god complex, and that wow that see I never really phrased it that way myself, but now you're saying it, he totally has a god complex. It's so true. I love that.
Yeah.
Um,
And which
it's so true.
which I can cuss here, right? I think I'm pretty sure I can cuss.
Yeah, please do it.
Cool.
Whatever.
Yeah, which
Fuck
fucks with me, Chris. Which fucks with me because Hadley, his scene after beating that prisoner in the beginning, and beating him badly in front of everyone, um, he references God, right? He's like, if I hear so much as a mouse fart, I love the colorful language, dude. It's like
yeah.
if I hear so much as a mouse fart from the rest of you, um, all night, I swear by God and Sonny Jesus, you'll all go to the infirmary. So if like maybe I'm overreaching here, but if the warden is God, false God, um, it feels like every time Hadley references him, he's referencing the warden in a weird way to me. It's
Sure.
I know I'm overreaching, but I don't know.
No, I don't think you are because like at least even in like in screenwriting terms, right? When I think when you're coming up with a story, and even if you have multiple antagonists, usually there is one main antagonist, right? Let's say
Mhm.
that's Warden in this case, right?
I agree.
So that most of the time, a lot of the other antagonists, they're kind of like the minions of the main antagonist. So they're kind of acting on his behalf, right? So Bradley is definitely the muscles.
Yep.
Oh no, Bradley, Hadley
Hadley. Yeah.
with H, yes, Hadley. So Hadley is clearly like an extension. Like he is the arm, he's the hammer
The
of the
army.
warden,
Yep.
right? Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Um,
but yeah, no, it's such a great. I love that. I actually love like one of the beautiful thing about This movie, I think, is like the story world. How they are creating like the Shawshank Prison, the whole setting, the arena for the whole movie, right? And
yeah.
then they kind of like populate it. It really demonstrates how you actually create a great story world, even though even in a confined space, right? Because there is so much so many rooms and people and relationships
Yes.
within this prison. So
Yeah.
so that you do have room to like so there is enough. So there's a huge story, even though it is kind of in a contained
I see
environment.
what you mean. Like it feels lived in. It feels
Exactly.
like if we took the camera and turned on onto another prisoner, there's a
Yeah.
whole different life. There's a whole different
Exactly.
world. A
Exactly.
little
Right.
bit of trivia too. I think if I remember right, I think it took him 5 months to find, Shawshank, um,
The prison.
the prison. Yeah, and I think the cell block was built as part of a set. Um,
That makes sense.
yeah, it was built, and it looks so real. Um, what was his name? I think Marsh, Todd Marsh, maybe I think is the production designer um, who built it, and it looked incredible, man. Yeah, it looked really great. And uh, do you want to mention the question from the Facebook group that people mentioned about the poster?
Oh no, let's save it for a little bit later till we get to
Cool,
that point. When we get to that, I think that's a nice it's a nice thing we can touch on with that we come when we get to that scene.
cool.
Uh,
Um, yeah, cool. Um,
so yeah, so no, but I think that's also a lesson to everyone like out there trying to come up with like with their own story, right? I think you really ought to put as much time into the story world that just as much as you are into all your characters, right?
mhm.
Because the story world has so many things, right? The story world is not only the setting, which can give you a lot of story when it within itself,
Yeah.
like what's in it, right? But what one of the main things also, I think a lot of the writers I work that kind of hires me to help them, right? That one of the main thing I see over and over again, all of the supporting characters are underutilized, and
Yes, 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 yes.
that's kind of like also that's as good story world has great characters populating it. And just like Shawshank does this wonderfully, using like Warden, he is the king of this place, or the god of the Shawshank, right, of the story world.
Right.
And we have Hadley, who is the enforcer.
Enforce.
We have the prisoners. We have like different layers in the prisoners and different groups and different fractions,
Hmm.
different rooms, like the theater room, like the library they built.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
all of these things, like all the solitary cell.
yeah, yeah.
The wood chopper. so the yacht. There's so many things.
Yeah,
They're really like, and it just looking at, I would say the biggest thing, just look at the characters. Without those characters in these different positions, the story wouldn't work.
would feel empty.
I don't.
Yeah, would
Yeah,
feel
exactly. It
empty.
would
But
be empty.
it's the approach to getting there. I think it's different for every writer, and I don't know how
Mm,
Stephen King did it.
sure.
Like the way I typically do it is I love character, right? So um, I think I look at the world from the character's narrative perspective. Like, let's say I start with Andy. I'm like, okay, this guy who really believes in hope. Um, what does he need? He needs someone maybe that steals away hope or takes away hope to be his antagonist. That's the warden. He needs someone that doesn't believe that hope keeps you free. That's Red, right? And just by creating those two characters, I'm like, okay, the warden steals away hope. If I don't give the warden oppressive power, Andy will have an advantage. So it's so cool what they did. They placed Andy, they made him so weak, so vulnerable, so exposed, and then put him in a world where, like you said, the warden was king, or the warden was God. The warden had control of everything. So from the very beginning, Andy was incredibly disadvantaged. Um,
Yeah, I agree,
yeah.
100%.
So yeah, the world building, I think it is tied a lot to the characters. Wouldn't you?
I actually like, yeah, again, like that's a great angle. Actually, I love that perspective, right? Because they are kind of intertwined, right? And they're both essential for a great story. But like, I think you can come up with them either way, either way, either approach. I do actually like. I think it's a great way to view it. Like, look at the protagonist. What is the protagonist like? Again, like, look at what they need. What kind of opponent do the antagonist like? Do the protagonist need? And then you kind of like build it out from there.
Yes.
Also, like, if it is a world, like, let's say he needs to fight to keep hope alive, okay, now we need to come up with a world where that can actually take hope away from him.
Yes.
How does that world look like? And I think this goes beyond, like, to every screenwriter can absolutely, like, any storyteller needs to consider these things.
Mhm.
Just like Batman, right? Like, Gotham is like this crime heavy dark
Yeah.
city,
Yeah.
and that's the story world he lives in. But we can look at Spider-Man, right? He is a very different type of hero. That's just a sprawling, beautiful, like sprawling New York City with lot of light. It's like very like urban
Yeah.
and normal environment, very, that we know. There's a lot of joy as well. There's a lot of crimes too, but
Yeah.
it kind of represents, like, also like who Spider-Man is.
That's very true.
Um,
Because
and that's, yeah.
you're touching on something really big, which is tone. Um,
Oh yeah, that's true. It's a really, oh yeah, I
Tone is
agree.
huge, and you were right. The world uh, that you place the character in really affects tone. So
Mm.
um, yeah, and it's yeah. You're so right. You're so right. Something else I came across that that I found really great. It's like a technique I never realized, and I feel like I'm being too nerdy here, but they used it really well in two scenes. The first scene was when the warden and Andy met the first time in the cell, um, and the second scene was when Andy and Red were talking out in the yard after Andy got out of the hole. After that long
Yeah, yeah.
2 month stretch.
That
And the technique was they have the characters uh, speak about themselves, but they're actually talking about the other one, the other character. So let me pull it up. I wrote it down.
I
Hopefully,
already think, like, yeah. While you find it, I think what you're getting at, and I love to hear when you find it. But I think what you're getting at is that basically, when through dialogue, right, they are projecting, like, they're trying to address the other character and tell them, like, this is how things are, like, and but they
yes,
by doing that, we kind of learn a lot about who that, like, what view that character has, what beliefs that character has. Um, and then we go back, like, so that's just a general character thing, right? So when characters the way character speaks, that kind of reveals a lot about themselves.
Yes.
I don't know if that what that was that where you were going, or
Yes, yeah.
what?
It's so layered. I'm trying to put it in words. Like
Mm,
the line. I think I found it here. So the warden and Andy's in his cell. He's got the Bible in his hand. Um, and later on, we realize he had it in his hand because he had that axe in it. Um,
yeah,
so he has it in his hand. Um, and the warden says, "Pleased to see you reading this." Referencing the Bible. And he asks Andy any favorite passages. And Andy says, "Watch ye therefore, for you know not when the master of the house cometh." So he's saying, be careful. To me, at least, he's saying, be careful. You need to be ready when the warden comes into your space. So Andy's saying he was prepared for the warden this whole time. He expected the warden to come. And then the warden says, "But I prefer, I am the light of the world. He that follows me shall not walk in darkness, but you'll have the light of life." So here the warden is talking about himself, the way he views himself in Shawshank. I am the light of the world. When in reality, that's Andy. Andy is the light in Shawshank. Andy is the one that's bringing hope to Shawshank. If you follow him, you'll find life. You'll be free, even though you are technically in a prison. Um, and I want to double down almost on this point because like I told you, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I checked the behind the scenes stuff with the film, and the director himself, who also wrote the script, he said the same thing. Um, um, he said Andy's the one that brings hope. He's the one that carries hope, if I remember right. Um,
yeah.
so it's a very nerdy thing, and I'm geeking out over it. Um,
I actually don't think it's that nerdy. Actually, it's just it's a really good observation, right? Because like you're absolutely right. That scene is like in the cell when they're reciting the Bible passage. Like, absolutely, like I like yes, that's like such a like Andy's basically telling the warden what the warden is, and then the warden like comes with another phrase. And I love that you also like spotted the another like another layer that it could also actually this is also not only are we learning a lot about like how warden views himself, we could also view what like it actually also could like foreshadow a lot about Andy.
yes,
So that's actually very well, very nice, very
yeah, like
good. Yeah,
thank you.
well spotted.
It's like
Uh,
I didn't write it, bro. It's just I noticed it.
oh,
But thank you. Like, and it's true. Like this movie almost needs a second viewing. Well, obviously, it's a great movie. You could learn a lot, watch it a lot. But if you watch it again, I started noticing things, right?
mm.
Like this whole time, Andy was one step ahead. It feels like it's just
Oh yes,
nobody listened. Like everyone dismissed him, right?
yeah.
And I love, and I want to get your thoughts on this. To me, um, Red, in a very real way, was an antagonist to Andy. In terms of if Andy brought hope to Shawshank, Red constantly said, you know, uh, hope is dangerous. I think he literally said that word or that
He does.
sentence. He said, hope is dangerous. Uh, there's no use for it here. And he's constantly pushing back, like even at the end. Um, and I think uh, this is the time where Andy really like pushed back against Red when they're sitting outside in the yard, and Andy tells him um, about how he let his wife down and how he basically killed his wife.
He admits, he did something. Actually, he did something terrible.
Yeah, his
Even though
response,
he didn't commit the murder, but he did like kind of like
nudge her.
in a symbolic way. He
Yeah,
did.
yeah, and um, Red, and he tells Andy, or I mean, he tells Red, "I'm gonna go to Mexico." I forget the city's name. Ziowatan. I'm not gonna.
I can say
I Yeah, I'm gonna
Nicaragua.
butcher it. But
Yeah, that's
he tells him how beautiful that place is. Like Andy's been living in that place. It's like
mm,
just painting this hopeful, beautiful picture. And
mm,
even then, Red tells him that's a bad idea. Get it out of your head. Mexico's way the hell down there. We're here.
mm.
And that's when Andy like frustrated and crying, tells him, I guess it really comes down to one thing: get busy living or get busy dying.
Yeah,
And that was just like, that's as clear as Andy could get for Red. Like,
it's the line.
like,
That's the line,
yep,
right?
that's the lie. And then he just, that's when Andy leaves. He's like, I gave you
Right now.
everything.
No, but actually, like I want to get back to I want to get back to that scene, but let's just I want to just mention something in like in regards to like what you just said, like
Please.
is if Red might be the like is an antagonist to Andy, right? Because I think he's definitely not the main antagonist, at least not in my view. But I get like, but he's I wouldn't even call him an antagonist yet. I kind of would. Like, why am I saying that? Because it is I think he's just a great supporting character because he has a unique view of the world. He has his own beliefs contrasting with the main character, right?
Yes.
So, like, as any great established, well written character should have, they will always serve as a mirror point to our hero. So, I think any supporting any great character, like any or even supporting characters in any movie, you will find that they like I think we will find that they are equally like as developed and feel as real as like almost like they could like we could see them they could be the protagonist because they are so well fleshed out
Right.
and we can really so I wouldn't call him an antagonist, but he does do what all other characters do, which should be a source of conflict for a
Yes.
protagonist because they are contrasting belief
Yeah.
and I think again that's why I think also why a lot of people think like with you, which is a fair argument that Red is the protagonist because he has the biggest change, and you can and again that's a big argument to make for that. I would say that the beautiful thing not only he's a well-rounded, fleshed out character who really also carries like the counter argument and not one aspect of the thematic like the theme of
Yeah.
hope. Um, but he's also like he's the point of view he's the POV character, right? He is the
Yes.
point of view, he's us, he's the audience.
Yes.
And through his narration, because also he believes these things, that's also a way that's also aids in the whole like build up of the big twist, right? It's this secret that Andy is having.
Yes.
That's one of I think one of the genius things this movie did, right? To hide that twist and using Red as the narrator was one of those elements I
Dude,
like to shield it from
you are
us,
you are
hide it.
you are so right.
And
That is such a good point you just made. It is so right. And I just realized, you just made me realize it now. Why I feel like we're always like, it felt
we're
that,
behind.
yeah, it felt that Andy was one step ahead because we were rooted in Red, like as the
Mm,
audience. And Red, to me, obviously he's hopeless, or he was living a hopeless life, which is kind of where the audience, it feels like they wanted the audience to go from where Red was to where he was at the end. They wanted us to go from hopeless, the world is,
mhm,
wah wah wah, to uh, like, no, live. You can be free regardless of your external circumstances.
exactly.
That's so true what
Exactly.
you just said. It's so true. Uh, that's a really
Yeah,
good
no,
observation.
yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah,
I hope it makes sense for the people listening out as
yeah,
well. But yeah, man, I think it's such a like I want to get back to that specific scene right there, right? Because that happens right after the dark. Like that's basically the lowest moment, like Andy's lowest moment in a way, right? Like that is like he is. If we changed up, like remove the twist, remove like any like all the like the whole twist, and just actually this story fits perfectly
hmm,
also as like a tragic story that the hero actually loses, like that Andy loses. So if he had hung himself, I think
yes,
all of us, including like also Red for sure, also helped establish that he was going to hang himself.
yeah,
But it fits so well with this kind of character. We have seen this play out in so many other movies that this would be like a realistic way, like an almost like
cliche
that would be
almost.
a natural way to end it.
Yes,
I think so. I think we all expected. I remember like well, I don't think I can remember the first time I watched it, but I can imagine that I was also like flawed, and I still is even though I know the twist, I still always assume
yeah,
like I can buy in if you just stop the movie at when he like with the prison guard going into the cell, and I could totally like if Andy had hung himself, we could have ended the movie and we would still have a great movie.
Yes.
But adding that twist,
Was-
adding that we just
Yeah.
go back, we have to force to go back the whole way through. Oh, all these things, all these little clues that actually was there, but beautifully hidden away from us. Revealing this like that Andy had the upper hand all along. He had a
Yes.
plan. He did remain hopeful because he could see it. He had hope.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
he was making a way out all the way. And I'm very curious to know. I may like you did a little research with behind the scenes stuff.
Mm.
I would actually love to know about like how long was this cave, like this escape route? How long had that been finished before
Before Andy used it?
because, before actually? But because I don't think I don't know this, but I'd be curious to know like did he stay in the prison a little bit long? Like could he have escaped like
Right.
months before?
Right.
But was didn't maybe he didn't have the courage to leave?
Right. That's a great question. I thought the same thing. I mean, he was in the prison for 19 years, right?
Yeah.
Um, give or take. And he only left. I remember Red saying he left because Tommy died. After Tommy's death, he was just like, "I'm ready to go. I'm done here, um,
Yeah.
and I want to get back to Tommy later." But I would say he had to wait because if when he was through the hole, right through the tunnel, and he was standing over the sewer pipe. That was so gross, bro.
Mm.
He was standing over the sewer pipe. He needed the storm. He was timing his blows with the lightning and thunder. So maybe he had to wait for the storm.
I don't like. I would argue. I would counter that, right? Because it feels like yes, it's a coincidence, sure, and it would make sense if he waited for the storm, right?
Right,
But I don't think Andy had any chance of knowing like in that scene with Red, like in the yard, that there was going to be a storm that night.
right.
So he probably would have to have done it anyway
That's true.
because he had already made the decision like to leave uh,
Yeah.
when we thought he was about to commit suicide right instead. But
The only
he
answer I
was.
have then is it's not. I don't think it's practical in the story world, right? But to me,
Mhm.
Andy couldn't leave until he'd given everything to Red. You know.
Maybe, yeah, that's could very well, very well. Well,
Mm.
I think there's also like before he went down to like he was put in solitary, right? He was trying to like help Tommy.
Mm.
That could also be one of the maybe like, but also he maybe have like if we look back at like both Red and also the old man
Brooks.
Brooks, yeah, right?
Mhm.
They were kind of like the Shawshank became their home. It became their life.
Institutionalized. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I think, wonder if that happened. Like was maybe happening to Andy as well, a little bit.
Ooh.
Maybe he was a little bit, and maybe that's why maybe one of the reasons why he also like postponed escaping.
Yeah.
Um,
Damn, you might
and
be
maybe,
right.
but he also had put so much light into this facility, and it was first when that light was when he was reminded by the warden that and he successfully shut that light down
Yeah.
and reminded that the true this is Warden's kingdom, and Andy's not gonna
Yeah.
he does not hold any power here.
That's
That's when he decided to leave, right?
yes. I think you're right.
Um,
Because to me, so this I guess this kind of a lesson for the viewers. To me, I find it very helpful to view the midpoint. Um,
yes.
I always thought it was just one beat, but it's not. Because
Mm,
each character has two threads, right? He has the plot thread and their character thread. The
yes.
midpoint has to reflect that. So
Mm,
the the midpoint for Andy was um, the death the death of Tommy. Someone that brought him hope, someone that literally
mm,
told him you're innocent. I could confirm he's innocent. Um, the first half of the midpoint was for his character arc, right? He
mm,
received a really heavy blow. Tommy, Hope, was killed, and that was the first blow. The second blow was that he spent 2 months, right? 2 months in prison,
yeah.
or I mean in the hole, and that's coupled
Yeah.
with the warden telling him, um, basically, I'm not going to help you get out because of how entangled we are now.
Yeah.
So he got one low point for his plot, which is to get out of Shawshank, and he got one blow point for his character, which is Tommy's dead. Um, and I just realized the sequencing of that. I thought it came as character. The first blow came to his character line, then to his plot line, but it's actually the reversed. The warden told him, "You're not getting out of prison. There is no hope for you." And then he kills Tommy. Um,
Mm,
and if you
yeah.
see, um, there's such a strong parallel between Tommy and Brooks, right?
Mm,
Like Tommy is to Andy what Brooks is to Red, right? Brooke or Red experienced the same thing. Brooks, uh, his low point, or to me, I'm not sure quite yet. I'm not quite sure, but Brooks got out, and immediately
yeah.
Red was panicking. He's like, he's been here 50 years. He's institutionalized. These walls, they make you hate them, then you get used to them, and then you're just you want them, you miss them, right?
Mm,
Really, really foreshadowing Red's whole experience once he gets out. And then Brooks dies. And that's when Red really doubles down. He's like, there is no
yeah.
hope. I don't want to leave
Mm, so true.
because
So
I
true.
will be dead. Um, but
True.
but that's the
That's a great. That's a great point. Actually, that's Red's like midpoint from in his story.
yeah,
Yeah.
because they did something so cool. They almost paused. Like we were going on Red's journey the whole time. I feel Brooks dies, and then we pause. We pause Red, and then Tommy shows up because they needed to set
Mm,
up uh,
yeah.
someone who is so precious and so important
Sure.
before they took him away for Andy.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Red went down first, then Andy went down, and Red stayed down there as he always was,
Mm,
hopeless.
yeah.
While Andy's like, "No, I'm getting out of here. Get busy living or get busy dying," as
Exactly.
he always was. Um,
So actually, now we're at it. Right? I think like you said you wanted to talk about Tommy, man. I've thought about that too. I think it's but what were you thinking? What about Tommy? Would you like to share?
that was it. That was and is that
Oh, that's it. Okay, fair enough. Cool.
yeah, like
Because I think
yeah.
okay.
I was gonna say um, Red, or I mean, Tommy presented hope. Um, like in the scene, Andy at that point was kind of drained to me. They put him in the
Mm,
hole, and then Tommy gets his letter. And they have that fun scene where like there's all
yeah,
Red
yeah.
and the fella's
And
taking away his,
mm,
and he's being,
yeah,
all snouty. He's like, I probably didn't get in. I probably didn't pass. He's like, shut up, dude. So
yeah.
and Red reads it, and then one of the officers goes to Andy in the cell in the solitary,
Mm,
places some food and tells him the kid passed.
yeah.
And then Andy's whole like the weight is lifted off his shoulders,
Mm,
even though he's in solitary for weeks and weeks and weeks.
yeah.
Um,
I actually love. Actually, now when we're talking about, it, I just want to give it as a side note, like basically something I noticed that really in this sequence, that I think also something we should all consider when we're writing our stories, right? That great stories, they always move, they go up, they go down, they go up, they go down, like plus minus,
yeah.
constantly, right?
Yes.
Highs and lows constantly. So we have this scene, right? We have the, like, yes, Andy is taught, like, well, Andy is given a chance, Tommy gives Andy hope. Andy goes to the warden. Andy is tossed to the cell, and then outside again we move up again, like happy news,
Yes.
like Tommy actually graduated. He actually got his diploma.
Yes.
Up, spark up, and then like Andy's a little this we put a smile on Andy's face,
Yep.
and then the warden calls out Tommy,
Tommy. Yep.
and he totally, again, this very vicious evil man, just like he totally lies to Tommy, like, and then he
Yeah.
shoots him back. um
Yeah.
and then again, then we just go boom, we just again went on an upward spiral, and then boom, down again.
Yes. That's something I was
um
going to talk to you about too.
yeah.
I don't know what to call it. I just heard it as it's a narrative technique called yes, but and no and. So it's like
Ah, that's a great one.
so it's
That's
like
great.
yes, we did the thing we wanted to do, but look, there's a negative thing that happened.
Yeah.
And no, we didn't do the thing we wanted to do. And
Mm,
this bad thing also happened. And
yeah.
I noticed
Exactly.
exactly the pattern that you were just touching on. Exactly it. You really
Yeah.
laid it out. It's like I tried to map out Red and Andy's journeys.
Mm,
And for Andy, it's yes, he did play Mozart. No, he got to thrown in the cell, you know?
yeah.
And for Red, it's like, no, he got rejected by the parole board. And Andy gets thrown in a cell or something negative
Mm,
happens. I wrote it all down,
yeah.
um,
Oh, sure.
but it was so interesting to see that one technique applied to two different characters,
Mm,
and one of them is because Andy's hope, his is naturally yes, but
mm,
with Red it's like no, but or and no and like Red kept going
yeah.
down, just kept going down,
Sure.
while Red kept going down and Andy kept going like this
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because
True.
he's hopeful.
Exactly right.
And it
And he's facing like, and there's a lot of antagonistic forces trying to take him down.
yeah, dude, you
And
just reminded me. I'm sorry, I get excited. You shouldn't have let me
let's
watch this
go.
movie, man.
Do it.
um, um, the perfect analogy was when Red was narrating, I think towards the end, and saying like, Andy loves geology, and geology is just basically uh, all about
Time and pressure.
time and pressure. Exactly, time and pressure, and that's what the prisoners endured. That's what Andy was enduring. That's what Red was enduring.
Yeah. It's a
Time
great layout.
and pressure. Like, just look at the craft, dude. Like thematically, they
Yeah.
put the thematics of the movie in the movie.
Everywhere.
It's
Well spotted. Well
dude,
spotted, man.
it's
Never
so
thought, never thought of it that way. It's so true.
yeah. Like they, I don't know if they took that from Stephen King because it's an adapted movie, but it was a novella, so it was small.
Yeah.
But the director Frank, he man, this was hey, like the
Absolutely.
craft. Yeah.
Now, when we actually want to go like 100%, what spotted, man. But I kind of want to just briefly go back to something about Tommy that I also think is important. I kind of like already highlighted it with Red
Mhm.
earlier, but it's kind of like the same thing, right? Because like when we look at the function of Tommy, right? His function, and I don't know which order they came up with it, right? But I could imagine that like when they came up with the plot, right? Okay, we need a character who can come in and kind of give Andy a hope that like an actual indication that like we need to put in a proof that Andy's actually innocent and
Yes.
he did not kill this man. And that's what that kind of what Tommy represents. But not only did like that was a plot function, right? A story function, right? But then they choose like, okay, we have this character, and then how can we make this character interesting, right? And then that character became this whole like, I don't think people think of when they think of Tommy. I don't think people are. I don't. At least I know my first thought to Tommy is not that like he gave Andy hope.
Mhm.
My first thing is like he was like, and he became like Andy's like a student,
Yeah,
right?
meant
That's kind
to.
of like the thing I remember him for. Like, he was this cocky brat, like
Yeah.
very quickly like got popular, like and made friends, and
Yes.
just everyone liked him. And then he kind of like Andy took him under his wing,
Yes.
and he just became a character of his own right. Even though I think I would guess the plot function came first, but then they kind of like turned him into a real character, and which gave so much more to the story.
Yes.
Which is also again like to want to emphasize to all the newer writers out there to remember to really flesh out all your characters. They can all give so much to the story.
Yeah. No.
And
Yeah. Thank you for saying that,
no,
man.
please,
That's so true. Like I
no,
failed
yeah,
to do this.
yeah, I agree.
I
Yeah,
was this is something I struggle with too. So like when
yeah.
we say this advice to you guys,
Mm.
this is stuff we're trying to master too. So I like to look at characters from a narrative point, like you just laid out, but I struggle to make the character interesting, like they did with Tommy, like
Mm.
you were saying. So my first instinct is to like, the mechanics of it. It's like, okay, yeah, Andy needs this guy, a character to really give him hope, and then we rip it away from him. Um, And then but yeah, you're absolutely right. Fleshing characters is so key. Tommy feels like a full character. He even gave him a wife. I think he has a kid. I think.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think he had a kid or a kid on the way. Actually,
Yeah, I
I can't
think
remember
so.
that either.
Um, yeah, and this is another cool technique. If like writers, I noticed this, but if the writer wants you to love something or think something is a big deal, they just flat out tell you. So during Tommy's
Yeah.
introduction, when Red was narrating, he was like, "This kid was cocky,
Mm,
like you were saying, cocky and a pain in the ass or whatever." And we absolutely loved him, or we of course we loved him. So even now, all these characters that we've come to know and respect and love are telling us we should love this kid. We should love Tommy.
mm.
And I felt immediately, it's like, of course I'm going to love Tommy. Like Red told me Tommy's cool, so I'm going to trust Red, Um,
Exactly. Exactly. The
it's
power of the narrator, right?
yeah,
And
yeah. Um,
POV character. Yeah, that's such a beautiful mate. Beautiful mate. Um, I feel like I had another point, but
Me too. There's so many. There's so many I
there's so
want to
many
touch.
things we
Yeah.
talk about, and we I think there's at least one thing I want to know. Like at least for everyone who, if you guys are gonna rewatch Shawshank at some point, really try to take a good look at the scene structure and when they begin the scene and when they end the scene.
Mhm.
Because I noticed there was so many times throughout the whole movie, it was a masterclass, and also like making sure to leave the scene as early, like very early, so
Yes.
that we kind of like left on a cliffhanger a little bit from every single scene, and then we went on to the next scene.
Yes. Pose the
And they
question.
did this beautifully all the way through.
Yeah.
Also, like there was one thing in particular, really, I thought that yes, this is such a key thing here, and lesser where lesser writer would have done something else, like when in the scene, like in the yacht, in the like when in the lowest point when Andy sits with Red, and he's kind of like, you either get busy living or get busy dying, right?
Yes.
Right before when he tells Red about the box, I think a lesser writer would have told like, Red, there is a box. You have to find within that box. There's going to be a letter.
Right.
You need to read that letter.
Right.
And maybe they could. You could even probably lesser writer could probably even expand that.
Hmm.
But no, they just stopped. There is a box. Find the box.
Yep.
That's it.
That's it.
That's all we needed, right? And we
Exactly.
kind of like.
Yeah.
So again, this is a small little thing. Also, like, make sure to tease the information. Don't give everything away. And this is something. This is hard to do. All even professional writers will struggle with this, and they will have to find these things in the rewrites.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. Well, and
and
this movie definitely was rewritten, dude. This was not a first draft
absolutely,
movie. Um,
absolutely, man.
but you're absolutely true. Like, leave questions, because
Yeah,
it creates
exactly.
curiosity. Like you said exactly
Mm,
when Andy tells Red, just there's a box, and immediately Red asked what I was thinking, like,
yeah,
what's in the box, and now I have to know what's in the
exactly,
box. It's like, damn it.
exactly, right.
Um,
We use it. There's so much story momentum there, right?
yes,
Sparks so much curiosity.
yes, yes.
Um,
Here's
and that happens actually in almost pretty much every scene of the whole
mhm,
movie through. If you look, if you want, if you people out there want to go and look for it, you will find it. And it's a masterclass on when to enter the scene and when to leave.
yes, yeah.
And yeah,
I think this may seem like they lingered or they started the scene early, but I think it was so crucial. That same scene you were talking about, where in the yard after Andy came out of the hole and he tells he's about to tell Red, you know, go to Mexico, find the box, whatever. They started the shot with Andy, his on the right, and his back pressed against one of the buildings,
mm,
and Red is all the way here across the screen. Right, I'm trying to face. So
yeah,
Red is right here, and there's a gulf, there's a distance between both of them.
mm,
That Red slowly walks towards Andy, right?
yeah,
Sits, have their conversations, and then Andy says, "Get busy living or get busy dying," and then he walks
true.
away from Red. There's still that distance,
Mm,
and then Red he turns around and he says, "Like I need you to do me a favor," and Red goes like halfway, and he stays there.
nice.
There's like distance between them still, even and that. I know it might be overstretching, but it felt so deliberate, the blocking. Like
I love the point. It's a good point, man. It's a good point.
And it just shows to me Red is almost there, because when Andy asks him, "Can I need a favor?" and he's like, "Anything, Andy, anything." But he still doesn't have hope. He still doesn't believe in hope. And even after Andy
Mm.
leaves, we get the line where he talks about friends, and he's saying, like, goodbyes. You're
Yeah,
still happy for them, but the world is so much less bright.
yeah,
You know, um,
yeah.
yeah, and like you said, towards the end, um, Red doesn't go for the gun, in the shop, in that window. He goes for the
Oh
compass,
yeah, beautiful. Again,
and
beautiful mirror.
yeah, and that was a good decision too. He goes for the compass, and he finds his way towards Andy. He finds his way towards hope.
Yeah, exactly. No, I love it. I think you're absolutely right. I actually now I just remembered at least one thing we need to just quickly address. I just want to mention here because we did have a viewer question. I thought that would be fun to bring up. In this perfect movie, there might well, there's I think there's a valid argument here, and
Yeah,
it's kind of like it's a funny one. It's a funny shout out to Isaac Lucas. So basically, what Isaac wrote in here, like, I'm intrigued that everyone overlooks the flaw with the movie poster. How did Andy pin it back in place from inside his tunnel? Question mark.
yep, yep. You got some theories? Because I got a couple of theories.
I actually got nothing. I never thought about it, but it's so true. Yeah, that's I never like again like okay,
Yeah.
maybe this is a flaw. Maybe this perfect movie does have a little bit of little bit of flaw. Maybe.
Well, here's
Yeah.
I did look up. I came across that question, and
Mm,
there's a theory I think is valid. In the movie, when after Andy escapes and Red is recounting what Andy was doing this whole time, Andy is leaning against the wall in his cell, and the poster, the two top corners are taped, but the bottom isn't, and he just lifts the bottom,
mm,
um, and he's digging away, and he leaves it.
yeah.
So
Abs-
the theory I heard was, the poster itself is heavy enough so that the bottom corners hang heavy enough that if you throw a rock through it, like the warden did, it would still go through.
mm,
It wouldn't, be flimsy. So the
yeah.
poster itself be heavy enough. But I also heard someone else say, Andy just taped two washers, those little
Yeah.
things, to the
Exactly.
corners, just to make it
Mm.
extra heavy when he leaves. So that could have been another answer. Um, but it sounds
Valid
plausible.
arguments. I'll buy them. I'll buy them.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you know
no, it's funny.
one last thing, bro? Um, the picture, the picture
Yeah.
itself, I think they messed up. Um, but that picture itself was taken from a movie that I think took place a year after Andy escaped in the
Oh,
story
fine.
world.
No way.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
Okay, that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah,
That's pretty funny. If that's the case, that's pretty funny, man.
yeah.
Okay, actually, do I was about to wrap things up here, but I do actually just thought of one last thing.
Who?
Shawshank Redemption,
Mm.
the title. Um, I just thought about it. I just there was another viewer question. It was a Danish comment. So I didn't want to read it up, but basically she just referred to that she actually prefers the Danish title of the movie, which is the direct translation of the title is in Danish, and we gave it another title here. It's called A World Outside. That's a Danish title of the movie, and she said that was a better title.
A
And
world.
then I kind of like just started reflecting on Shawshank Redemption and what that all mean. What is the all the meanings of the Shawshank Redemption? If if Shawshank is basically this dark place we need to get out of, how can we find redemption in here? And who's finding redemption in here? I think
Right.
it's actually something too. I just want to pass you. I just thought of it, and I think
Yeah.
it's a. Why do you think they call it Shaw? Like I have some ideas here too, why that is, and
Yeah.
I think it's probably pretty obvious as well.
Yes.
But
Uh,
what do you think about that? What do you think about the title Shawshank Redemption?
Well, the original story, wasn't it called? It was a female actor's name the same actress that when they were sitting in the movie theater, they were watching on a
Mm.
movie. I forget her name, Hawthorne or something like that. She's probably one of the greats, so I'm kind of embarrassed. Yeah, it was her name and the Shawshank Redemption. Um,
Oh.
so Shawshank Redemption to me feels a lot more character based. Like the
Mm.
character needs to
True.
learn
I agree.
something,
I agree.
but a world outside it also does. Like it's so rooted in the want. Like the characters,
Yeah, exactly, right. Exactly. It's funny. That's more like an exterior, or what title
yeah,
focus more on the exterior than the exterior, like the outer world plot, and then the other Shawshank Redemption is more about
yes,
the inner transformation. But that's also like again, it's kind of funny, like Shawshank Redemption, right? I think like Andy, he does gain like a huge insight that he was maybe a bad husband, and in a metaphorical way, he did kill his wife, even though
yes,
well, let's be fair, let's be honest, he did not commit murder, so
right,
that is a stretch. But he did have a realization. But then again, like who did have the redemption? Well, and of course, like it's Red, right?
right,
He had the redemption.
yes.
Um,
I have,
but was that Shawshank or was that Andy?
yeah, yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah, I have a question for you, and
yeah.
this is a piece that if it was in any other movie, I would have been like, it's great, but because this damn movie is so good, it felt like if this movie's a 10, this piece felt like an 8. Um,
Okay, yeah. What is it?
so in the beginning, in the hook, the judge tells Andy, uh, he's like, "You come across as a very cold and remorseless man. I sentence you to 2 life sentences to be served back to back." Right. So he's telling Andy, "You're very cold and emotionless." And then through the movie, um, we have Red just hint at it, saying, people don't understand Andy because he's so quiet. Um,
Mm,
and then at the end, with the scene with Red and Andy sitting down, with Andy tells him, "My wife tells me I'm a hard man to read." Um, he's like, "I loved her." He's like, "God, I loved her. I just didn't know how to show it." So
yeah.
it was like a layer that I don't know why it's I know why they included it, like that Andy couldn't express his emotions well, but I also don't know why they included it. Like it it explains why um, Andy and Andy was a bad husband. Like Red tells him, he couldn't express
Mm.
himself, and that kind of explains why his marriage broke apart and why his wife cheated. But I just felt, and I want to hear your thoughts. I just felt like
Yeah.
it's an extra thing that was distracting from the real meat of Shawshank. Um,
I can see where you're coming from, and I don't. Like to me, it's not like the way I think. Like you're right, it's not 100% connected to the Shawshank like Redemption, that storyline there with hope and everything, right?
right,
But I do feel like it's pretty much in line with like with the redemption part of the story, right? And that
right.
also I kind of like also it's kind of a nice nod to what's kind of started the story as well, right?
Bookend.
Uh,
Yes.
Yeah, exactly right. It's just like Lord of the Rings, right? The third one had like all like this like very very long ending, right? But when you look at it, it's basically just they're just wrapping up like storyline after storyline after storyline.
Yeah. Loose ends.
And I think this is kind of like I think that's just kind of like them tying up the bow of like what originally started the story, but also while also giving Andy some more character, like giving him some a character development as well.
Damn, that's a good answer,
Um,
Chris. That's a damn good answer. Okay, that makes sense.
so, but
Yeah,
that's how I would say it. That's how I
yeah,
would view
that makes
it.
sense. Literally, that was the only qualm I had, if even you could call it that. Um,
Wow. No, fair enough. But that's fair. It's
yeah,
fair. That's fair. Good. Well spotted. Again. I think I think it works wonderful.
yeah,
But I can see because it does wear off the like kind of like the story we're kind of off.
yeah.
But I also think it's kind of like also indicates that how much pressure Andy's under right now. That he's been forced to like also like look at his own darkness in a way and
Yeah,
embrace that and like kind of overcome that.
yes,
And
yes. And it's funny because That's so true. So maybe that moment, Red also had a character moment where because
Yeah,
he's the
maybe.
one that tells Andy, "You didn't kill
Exactly.
you didn't murder your wife. You're not a murderer. You were just maybe a bad husband." Um,
Yeah.
so he gives Andy kind of the same gift that Andy was trying to give, um, give him. Like after one of Red's parole hearings, where the board rejected him
Yeah.
again, Andy, the hope giver, it's like gives Red the harmonica, which
Yeah.
music like Mozart, you know. So
Yeah.
he gives him the harmonica, and Red said, "I haven't played the harmonica, since I was a young man, and it has no
Yes.
use in this world or in Shawshank." And Andy's
Yes.
like, "Oh, this is the perfect place for music. Like this is the best place for music."
Mhm.
Um, so he gives it to
That's,
Red. So it
mm,
felt in that moment, in that last scene between them, that Red was kind of giving the same, giving him a gift.
yeah, so true. So true.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a great, well, nice man. Okay, man. Like, do you have any final thoughts? Because I think we're gonna wrap it up now. I think
Um,
we've been over this. I don't unless we have. Are we missing something?
we could talk about this movie for hours, bro. I'm just gonna
We
say,
probably could.
like, rewatch this movie, guys. Oh my god, rewatch it. Like, learn because there's so much to learn.
Mm,
Um,
absolutely.
uh,
So many things.
yeah, yeah, and I guess be hopeful if we want to be corny on the way out. But yeah, be hopeful.
Let's be hopeful.
Let's be
Remain
hopeful.
hopeful, and find the hope within. And
Yep.
you know, absolutely, Aki man. Thank you so much for being here again and coming back and talking Shawshank. And you know what, I want to let's do more of these things.
I
I
was gonna
love this.
suggest,
I love
bro.
this.
I was gonna suggest we
Yeah,
do
dude.
another movie.
Absolutely, guys. If you're watching on either way where you're watching it, go find this video on YouTube if you're not already watching it there. Go down in the comment section and let us know if do you have a favorite movie that you would like
Mm.
us to talk about? Let it or a recommendation for some movie you think we need to like go over kind of in a similar way and just have fun with. So please chime in. And that YouTube channel, of course, that's Chris Mygock. Oh, there will be a link down in the description.
Nice. Yes.
So
Yeah, I'm excited. I want them to give us their best shot. Give me your favorite
yeah, man.
movie, dude.
Yeah, do it. Bring it on,
Bring it
man. Let's
on.
just talk. Let us talk, man. And I'll even throw in that if you are a screenwriter yourself and you are on a level that you know that you have been doing it for a while, you know what, you can even join us in that conversation if
Ooh,
you want to.
that'd be great.
I'm gonna throw that in there. So yeah, but again, Aki, thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure. And to all of you viewers out like, oh my God, Aki, do you want to plug anything now you're here?
No, man. I just want to say, as usual, thank you for doing this with me. I think this is fun, man. This is really fun for me. So, and I'm learning a lot. So I can't thank you enough for that.
Me too, man. Me
Um,
too. You have some very sharp observations about like especially thematics and also like meaning and symbolisms.
thank you, bro.
I love that.
Yeah,
It's really enlightening. It's like, oh yeah, that's right, and layers in the story. That's you're good at spotting those
that's
things.
because I'm learning about even years into it, man. Like I'm
Yeah,
still learning, and like I shared with you yesterday. Um,
yeah,
to me, I'm realizing more and more. This is the stuff that really matters. You start with the theme. You start with
yeah.
meaning, and from
Exactly, one
there,
hundred percent.
all the aesthetics, all the plot stuff will eventually come. But if you have that heart, if you have that message already,
Yeah,
hope keeps you free. You could you could yeah, you could be free to do whatever you want. Um,
100%, man. 100%.
yeah, yeah,
Yes, you're right.
yeah.
All right, guys, girls, screenwriters out there, thank you so much for being here and tuning in. And with that said, let's remain hopeful.
Woo!
See you in the next episode.
See you guys.